world is on the verge of economic collapse, nuclear war, environmental collapse from which there's no return. The threat of artificial intelligence is almost upon us, ready to treat us like slaves. Because man has gone away from the law. I'm here to reinstate the law, to bring humanity back to its senses, to save mankind. Anyone who disobeys the law, the water shall leave your body, and when the water leaves your body, you become thirsty, and you cannot enter back into life. And with that water goes your DNA, 6 elements essential for life: carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, phosphorus and sulphur. 5 of those in DNA shall be taken, and all you will be left for your soul to attach to is sulphur, where you shall remain as long as the earth is alive. Billions of years alone with your thoughts, tormented with the burning sensation of the sulphur. The very first page in the Bible, it says, the Spirit of God moved on the surface of the water. In its mechanical form, electricity. In its biological form, chi. The God of water, the God of life, the Holy Spirit, the God of the universe, Almighty God, Jah. Anyone who disobeys the law, ultimately, that's what will happen. You become thirsty, just as I did on the cross. And that's why I thought I was forsaken. I already knew I was going to be tortured and murdered. Why did I think I was being forsaken? Because I knew you become thirsty. If you die thirsty, you go to hell. And I panicked. Why? I've given my life for mankind, the service of God. Why would I be going to hell? Why have you forsaken me? But it was done so that the world can witness what is the reality of going to hell, that it does exist. And you can learn to do the right things. But I was not forsaken, because God put the thought into another person to give me vinegar. And when I was given that vinegar, it quenched my thirst and allowed me to reattach to water just before I died. And my spirit remained with water, and I remained with the living. The other option, if you disobey, is you go into the bottomless pit for an indefinite time up to 1,000 years. The bottomless pit is that dream where you dream you're falling, you realise there's no bottom and you panic and you wake up with a fright. Disobey the law and you'll not wake up. You'll die in this life and you go into the realm of dreams, a real body falling into the bottomless pit for 1,000 years, and every minute will feel like 1,000 years. Agony, unbearable, bumping into people, get scraped, get banged, desperate souls attaching onto you, trying to eat your flesh. I can't describe the horrors. That's reality if you break the law. Now to children, I just want to say that this is quite scary. I understand that, but I have to be blunt, I have to be blatant to save people from the ultimate horror. You can't say to somebody, don't walk out in the middle of the road when there's fast traffic moving. It's not very nice. No, you have to be absolutely clear. Don't walk out in the middle of the road when there's fast moving traffic, or you get killed. It could smash your brains and have your blood splatters all over the road. And it's only to protect people, stop them from doing something that they'll never come back from. It has to be graphic, it has to be clear. But if you do the right thing, do the easy thing, the safe thing, you'll not have any worries. It is very easy. Just be careful. Obey the law, which I'm about to do. I'm going to explain the law, reinstate the law so man can do the right thing. I'm going to explain exactly who I am, where I came from. I'm going to address each major world religion. And then I'm going to say what I want you to do positively. I'm going to explain how I performed all my miracles the last time I was here as Jesus Christ. So you can know that I am Jesus Christ, and I'm going to back it up with science so you'll understand that I'm no fake. This is real. And then I'm going to finish. So first, I'm going to explain the law, and I'm going to free you all from slavery. First of all, talk about the most prevalent, most widespread form of slavery in the world today is a form of bonded labour, and it's called fractional reserve banking, and it's run by almost every bank in the world using the scam. They steal everything from everybody and they enslave people to have them working because of this scam. And for anybody who knows about it but doesn't understand how it works, I'm going to explain it to you, not in the bank's language, saying that it's providing credit so people can access things, and they say it keeps economies going. That's incorrect. It's a lie. I'm going to say it in layman's terms, simple terms for everybody to understand. So you can see it's theft and it's slavery. Okay, so you got a house on the market for $100,000. Family A, Mr. and Mrs. A, have got $100,000. They've worked hard over the years, they've saved their money, and they have $100,000. They're interested in going making a bid on that house for $100,000. You got family B, Mr. and Mrs. B, also want to buy this house, but they haven't got $100,000. They've only got maybe $5,000 or $10,000 for a deposit. But they know that a bank will give you a loan, they call it. So they go along to the bank and they ask the bank for a loan. And the bank only wants to know one thing. They'll say it's very complicated. It's not, it's very simple. All they want to know is if the people that are getting that loan are able to pay that loan back. And they want to do that to make sure that they don't default on their payments, because it looks bad, because they use that money in other scams to reap and cheat people out of money in other ways. So it doesn't look good for business if the money doesn't come through. So they look at the wages of the people and they say, ah, looks like you can pay off a loan, alright. Now, they don't actually give any money. That's the thing. They say it's money, but it's not. It's counterfeit money. Fake currency, they call it. Anybody else does it, they get murdered. So all they do is they create this money out of nothing, called fractional reserve banking. So for generally, they just type up the numbers on the computer screen and they transfer it digitally, and they print out maybe 4 pieces of photocopy paper, and they give that as the contract. So they give permission to these people. So the two families, family A and family B, go along to make an offer on this house at $100,000. The buyer's seeing there's competition, decides to up the price to $110,000. Now family A do not print money. They're not criminals, and they don't get involved with criminals that do. So they don't get involved with the banks. But they simply haven't got next to $10,000 to buy this house. It would take them years getting that kind of money. They just can't buy the house, so they're locked out of it. They can't compete. Family B, they go back to the bank and they say, look, the price has gone up to $110,000. Can you loan us $110,000? The bank looks at the wages again and says, ah, you'll be able to pay that. So for 5 minutes of work, 4 pieces of photocopy paper, these people go back. The seller of the house believes that this money is real and accepts it, and it goes into circulation and it becomes real, because then it reflects the value of the house and these people's wages. But the bank, who invested nothing to lose, for 4 pieces of paper, they now own a house. And they own the wages of family B for the next 20, 30, 40 years. Maybe thousands of dollars every month being paid to the bank for 4 pieces of paper. It's the most obscene form of slavery in the world. Now Mr. and Mrs. A still need somewhere to live, so they're forced to rent. If they're paying rent on the property, that rent is taxable. part of that government tax is government debt, which goes back to the bank. So they're still paying back to the bank. If it's that house, if that landlord is mortgage on that house, he's paying directly to the bank. So either way, Mr. and Mrs. A are still subservient to the bank. They're made slaves. Even if they refuse to get involved in this criminality, they have no option. Because the laws have been perverted. And this system has been turned against people, good, decent people, enslaving everyone, and eventually stealing everything from everyone. So, if anybody has any debt, mortgages, private loans, credit card loans, any kind of loans from fractional reserve banking, you owe nothing. You have no obligation to pay back. And in fact, if you do, you're breaking the law because you're supporting criminality. You're supporting slavery and theft, which is against the law. If you have a house and you're living in it paying a mortgage and you stop paying that mortgage, you have the right to remain there. That house belongs to you because you've invested more than the bank or anybody else. You remain in that house as yours. That's the law. Now, for banks, what you're going to have to do, you're going to have to be very disciplined. Any money that was deposited in banks, in good faith, in savings accounts, business accounts, not gambling, anything invested in trust must be honoured. Every penny must be honoured. Any money that came in as gambling, shocks, stairs, bonds, no obligation to pay these people. If they lose money, that's their own tough luck. They gambled. But the economy of trust must survive. The economy of greed and gambling and deceit can collapse. And it's not acceptable for any economist or bank managers or politicians or anybody else to say, oh, we cannot give the money that was deposited. The figures don't add up. Yes, they do. You make them add up. Your figures haven't added up for hundreds of years. It's all been deceit and lies, this fractional reserve banking. So you find a way to make them add up. And every cent must be honoured, paid back to anybody who's put that in trust for safekeeping. Now the other kind of slavery, any other kind of bonded labour, anybody who's been kept against their will, let them free and let them go home. Give them 3 times as much money as they need to get home. Anybody's been held against their will as a prostitute, free them now. Let them go home. Give them 3 times as much money as they need to get home. If you delay for 1 day, tomorrow you have to give them 5 times as much money. Delay a further day and you have to give them 8 times as much money. And that's all. 3 days. After that, you face the bottomless pit or hellfire with sulphur forever outside life. There's to be no more arbitrary detention, false imprisonment of people. Whether it's for selling drugs, taking drugs, whether it's for non-payment of fine, non-payment of taxes. These are arbitrary detention because it's a system that you have devised. And a lot of your so-called laws, statutes, regulations, government acts are actually against the law. They're criminal acts. So your criminal system is perverted. So no more false imprisonment for anybody for non-violent crimes. The fact is, prohibition of drugs does not work. Education works. But I say at the same time, anybody who is dealing in dangerous drugs, I'm talking about narcotics, I'm talking about heroin, cocaine, crystal meth, psychiatric drugs, antipsychotics, antidepressants. These are all killer drugs. They kill people. And if anybody dies as a result of you dealing those drugs, you are responsible. And you will face either the bottomless pit or hellfire. So you're warned now, no more selling drugs, deadly drugs. You are responsible. And that goes for people in psychiatric institutions as well. They call them psychiatric hospitals. They're not hospitals. They're dens of drug dealers, sometimes forcing their drugs onto people, torturing people. The United Nations Rapporteur recognised this and stated openly to the world that forced psychiatric treatment is torture. Any kind of psychiatric treatment forced is torture. So you have to stop it. Anybody being held against their will in any of these psychiatric units is to be freed, without question. If they find that they need help in coming off these extremely powerful drugs, support them and get them off them as quick as possible. Anybody who is imprisoned for violent crimes, rape, murder, serious violence against people, you remain behind bars until the people that you have sinned against, whether it's the people that you've raped, whether it's the families of people that you've murdered, you wait until such time as they're prepared to come and communicate with you and talk with you. And when they're satisfied that you are truly sorry, it's up to them to say that you're forgiven and you're allowed another chance in life. And until that day, you remain behind bars to learn self-control, to learn how to meditate and do what's right so this doesn't happen again. Use it as a blessing in disguise. Now, if people want to go and visit other people in prison, families, lovers, any loved ones, you could go in and visit people behind bars. Remain with them for as long as you want. Stay with them 24/7. That's where healing will come from love and affection and communication. And those people who go and visit are free to leave anytime they want, but the other people in there for violent crimes wait behind bars. Meditate until such time as the people are ready to come back and communicate with you and give you the go-ahead to be freed. Next thing I want to talk about is theft. Everybody knows that theft is wrong. Do not be a thief. Do not even steal a biscuit from your family. That's where it starts, and it leads on to other things. So don't do it. And the thing about theft, it's not just the property that you steal. If it's from your family, from your community, from your society, when you steal that object. But you also steal the trust and the happiness and the joy that's within that family or that community. Because if people don't know who the criminal is, the finger points at everybody. Was it him? Was it her? And it casts a shadow. It sucks the joy out of life. And it's an abomination, and God hates it. It's a despicable thing. So don't steal from anybody. Even a biscuit from your family. If you want something, ask for it. If you really need it, beg for it. There's no shame in that. You know that in my last life, I was a beggar. So there's no shame in begging. You ask, and you shall receive. And if you don't receive it as fast as you want, keep on asking. And you'll get what is necessary for you eventually. Trust in God, and it will come to you eventually. Sometimes not always in time, but it will. People talk about the law of attraction. What you focus your energy on will manifest. So believe, and it will manifest. You believe in positives, and you focus and put your energy concentrating on positives, and positives will manifest. If you focus on negatives and believe that negatives will happen, they will happen. It's the law of attraction. Now, the largest and most widespread form of theft in the world is a form of corporate theft called privatisation, where resources which belong to everybody, water, gas, oil, minerals, land, electricity, national transport systems, banks, these all by right belong to everybody. They should be run in the national interest, wherever they are. And the profits from that business, if there are profits, should be shared equally amongst the people. Now, there is a case for competition, so you can run them as cooperatives. A little bit of healthy competition. Even governments should be cooperatives. And the president of our country, the prime minister, the politicians, right down to the person that cleans the toilets in the local county council offices, all get the same hourly wage. Because in God's eyes, the person that cleans that toilet is just as important as the president of a country. And maybe even more important someday. So take equal pay for equal hours. And if you're a fantastic Prime Minister, a fantastic President, let that be your reward. That you have done great for your country and great for humanity. Now to other people, millionaires, billionaires, who have businesses that they've created themselves, I would say to you, even though you've created these things yourselves, I would say if you have companies, run them as cooperatives. Honour God. Be kind. Be generous. Don't be selfish. Amass some money for yourself. And I say to all these millionaires and these billionaires, the last time I was here as Jesus Christ, I said that it's easier for a camel to get through the eye of a needle than it is for a rich man to get into heaven. And I stand by this, because now we know it's a scientific fact. When the egg of a camel is fertilised by the semen of a camel, it becomes a little camel growing inside the mother. And that camel easily passes through the eye of a needle. But the window of opportunity is only for a few days. So I encourage you, all you rich people, share out your wealth now to the poor who need it. Give it to projects for the rebuilding of this world, the developing world. Use it to bring Africa, India, Nepal, places in Central America, any impoverished nation, right into the 21st century. Modest, but nice, clean, healthy homes like we see in Greece, like you see in the United States of America, like you see in Australia. Modest, but nice, clean homes. Fresh running water for everybody. Electricity for everybody. Broadband for everybody. No more theft. And there's to be no more killing. If anybody is armed and combat for any army, whether it's a police force, a national army, a so-called terrorist organisation, a street gang selling drugs or running prostitution, whether it's in the streets of Chicago, Rio de Janeiro, Soweto, Hong Kong, Mexico, stop your fighting. Stop your murder. Put down your weapons. The more weapons you have, the more murder there is. And the people who have the weapons are most at risk of being murdered. So put down your weapons now and trust in peace and trust in God. And if so happens you come up against an enemy in an intense situation, perhaps in Afghanistan, in Syria, in Congo, in the drug wars of Colombia or whatever, and you see someone, explain to them Jesus has returned. He has reinstated the law. He has brought judgment day to the people. You have to do what's right, or face hellfire and sulphur, or the bottomless pit. Talk to them, talk to them, talk to them, communicate with them, get through to them until they listen and look at the evidence. You have to believe in peace. And if anybody actually dies, I can't guarantee that nobody is going to die because of this. There may be some rogue elements out there who don't listen to the message, who don't get the message as soon as everybody else. They may be extremely distressed, extremely confused, and people might die. But you have to believe in peace. and prepared to die for peace to achieve it. But if anybody does die in the pursuit of peace and truth and justice in this world, they will not die the second death. They will be reincarnated and they will live forever. Time and time again, just as I have done since thousands of years ago. For any armies that have nuclear weaponry, you're to disarm them now. They're under grave threat of being taken over by artificial intelligence. So, you disarm them, remove the detonators, and take that nuclear material away to be reprocessed in nuclear reactors. In the future, we're going to go away from nuclear energy back to clean energy. Which is safer? Hydropower, wind power, solar power. But for now, you make those bombs safe. And I want teams of scientists, nuclear scientists, from each of the countries that has nuclear weapons to form a team and go into each and every country that has nuclear weapons and verify that these nuclear weapons have been made safe beyond use, and then confirm it to the world on the news channels all over the world as soon as that's been verified. We need a few more teams for the likes of the United States of America and a few more teams for the likes of Russia, who have more weapons than most, and America, with far more weapons than anybody. Need extra teams for them, but get working at that straight away. No delay. Anybody who delays, hellfire or bottomless pit. Any weaponry that is going to be made redundant now because this is the end of war, it can be recycled. Make sure it's put out of use so it can't be used, and put it to be recycled to things like bicycles, vehicles, water pumps, as we rebuild this world, turn it into the kingdom of heaven, the terrestrial kingdom of heaven. And another form of killing which is not allowed. No more killing of animals for food. No more killing plants for food. Now you can use the fruit of plants. Fruits and seeds are permissible. They are given. But don't take the roots of plants until the plant has died naturally and its leaves start to wither. Whether it's potatoes or turmeric or yams. If you're going to eat those things, they're not a primary food. They're not fruit. But if you're going to use them as food, you wait until that plant is dead before you harvest them. No more using mud, sprouting your beans or your seeds, for bean sprouts in your salads, or for malt in your beers and your whiskey. No more. That's bringing something to life to kill it. And it doesn't matter how insignificant it seems to you. That thing has a soul and the right to live and not be brought into life just to be murdered, killed. Not even yeast or bacteria. If you're going to make bread, make it unleavened. If you're going to drink coffee, have it dry processed, not fermented, so it's got bacteria. And the fact is, because in each and every living thing on this planet has a soul, and that soul is universal. Just the same as vehicles have evolved over the years. You can look at an airplane, an ocean cruiser, a submarine, a car, a motorbike, a bus, a skateboard, all very different vehicles. Some huge, some very complicated, some very simple. But they are all steered by one thing, a human. And it's the same in every living thing. It's steered by one thing, a soul. And that is a universal soul. And this is backed up by science. It's not just the philosophy of the religious people, like Buddhists who talk about universal soul, reincarnation, and non-violence to everything, or Rastafarians who say I and I, universal soul. This is backed up by science. Every living thing on this planet, whether it's bacteria, fungus, insect, plant, animal, any living thing on this planet has got a basic set of genes. Scientists call it the LUCA set of genes, L-U-C-A. As a set of genes, I think it's 355 genes, as far as I can remember, which is found in every living thing on this planet. We all come from the same thing. We are all earthlings from the one family. So stop killing each other. There's no need. Yes, sometimes things die. Sometimes things are killed incidentally. You try your best to minimise that killing, no matter where it is. The fifth commandment given to Moses was, thou shalt not kill. It does not say thou shalt not kill man, or thou shalt not kill animals. Thou shalt not kill. And the primary source of food for mankind is fruit. Whether it's fruit from trees or it's the food of perennial or annual plants like wheat, barley, rice. These are fruit. Sugars and starches are your primary food, the healthiest food on the planet. And if you eat them naturally, in their whole natural form, you get all the nutrients necessary for life. All the proteins, fats, all the micronutrients. They're the healthiest food on the planet. And science backs that up. When you start eating a fruit-based diet, all 90-95% of your diseases will just disappear. Diabetes, cancer, hypertension, heart disease, just disappear on a fruit-based diet. Secondary to this is seeds, which can be used sparingly. Ungerminated, not germinated, ungerminated, can be added to your diet, if so be it. If you need a little bit extra supplementation, you don't need it. But if you desire it, no harm. The same as I said with roots from plants. It's not a primary food. It's not ideal for the body, but it can be used as long as it's done humanely. And you don't need to add drugs when you're growing food or when you're preparing food. Chemicals, you don't need them. Do it organically. There's methods there which will give you far greater yields, far healthier food. Use that. Now, the one exception I will say about fruit, and it was explained in the parable of Genesis, the creation story, which is not a scientific chronicle, it's a parable to explain many things. But it says there, the forbidden fruit that man is not to eat, which is not good for mankind. It's unbelievable that some people didn't get this. It's so obvious. When Adam and Eve in the parable of Genesis ate that forbidden fruit and realised that they were naked, they took leaves of the fig tree to hide their nakedness, because that's where they were. They were starting to eat the fruit from the fig tree. The forbidden fruit. Figs are not for human consumption. So don't eat them. The fact is, fig is not actually a true fruit. It's actually an inverted flower. It's not a fruit. And it can house parasites and larvae from insects. In the Bible, it is described as evil. Now, as I say, no more killing. And if you're keeping herds of animals due for slaughter, you let them go. You keep looking after them now as if they were your brother and sister, because they have the soul inside them just the same as you. Anyone who kills a cow or a tree or a fish is the same as killing a person. Looks different on the outside. When you get down to the soul level, the very basic genetic level, you're exactly the same. Whatever you look on the outside. So have compassion towards everything. If you have herds for milk and to collect eggs from, you let these out of any prisons that they're in. Let them outside into the fresh air. Let them feel the ground underneath their feet. Let them breathe fresh air. Feel the wind and the rain. in their faces. And if they come back in and they willingly are milked and provide eggs, that may continue as long as this generation of animals is alive, but no more real animals to be slaves to man's lust for animal foods. Get animal foods out of your diet. They're not healthy. In the long run, they will bring you disease. They will bring you close to death and kill you. It says in the parable story, the only time that God allowed man to eat the flesh of another animal was after the flood, when there was absolutely nothing left to eat in the world, not even one green leaf of a tree. Only then was mankind allowed to eat the flesh of another. But in that same verse, which a lot of so-called Christians and Jews and Muslims conveniently overlook, it says, God said, because I take the life of another to feed you, I must take your life. It's the law of karma. You kill to live, and you will be killed. It's a fact of life. It's the law of karma. And because at the minute there's an estimated between 20 and 40 million people throughout Africa starving, dying every day from starvation, because it is so extreme, all around the world people have meat already slaughtered sitting on shelves in their kitchens and supermarkets. I want you to take that meat, put it on the containers and fly it out to Africa, where it's to be shared amongst those people who are absolutely starving. An estimated 20,000 children dying every day because of poverty-related diseases and starvation. They are allowed to eat all that meat that has been slaughtered. And you follow that up with resources so they can plant trees, they can plant crops, they can bring water in from outside to water the crops. And when you get trees in the ground, the trees will attract waters. It will bring the rains. So get planting trees everywhere. And you all have an obligation to contribute towards that. Because you're not be paying mortgages anymore. No more national debt. A portion of that money, maybe a third or a half or 2/3, should go to these impoverished countries that have been left behind, that have been impoverished by this banking system, this world banking system that has impoverished people systematically, stolen everything from them. Africa, one of the richest continents on earth, brought to its knees, absolutely impoverished by this banking scam. That's where your money is to go. Africa, India, Nepal, Central America, any impoverished country, bring them back up. Modern times, nice modest houses, infrastructure, education. Put that money into building a world for everyone. Another type of killing which is not allowed is suicide. There's no excuse for it anymore. I'm explaining the law here and I'm making it easy for you. I'm giving you tools to live a healthy, long, productive, fulfilling life. All you have to do is obey the simple rules, the simple law. It's so simple. It's impossible not to fall to it if you try. There's no more excuse. I understand in the past people have been so distressed and so confused about what's right and wrong that they haven't known what to do, and they've felt desperate, become so desperate that they've taken their own life. They found life unbearable. Now it's not going to be unbearable in the future if you do the right thing. So do the right thing and no more killing. If you make mistakes, you face those mistakes. You can't die and think that's going to end it, because our soul is eternal. It cannot die. It goes from one life to another. The only time it absolutely dies is if you refuse to do the law. Absolutely refuse. And you keep becoming a criminal. Then the water will leave your body. And you go to sulphur. Dwell with sulphur forever. As for abortion, the fact is that when the egg is fertilized with the seed of a male, that is attached to a soul. That becomes a living, breathing soul. maybe not breathing until it's born, but a living, pulsating soul, even within the womb. And if you decide to terminate that life, that soul must face death. And facing death is always traumatic. It's never easy. No matter how many times you go through death. I know I've been through death so many times. So, act responsibly. Don't bring any children into this world that you are not prepared to raise responsibly and bring up in the laws of God. If any man rapes a woman or lies and cheats to a woman, and she finds herself with that child through rape or through deception, and she feels she can't cope, she may terminate that pregnancy, and that killing, the karma lies with that man who raped her or who deceived her. Same if a woman lied and ends up pregnant by deceiving a man or raping a man, then she is liable for that karma if that pregnancy is terminated. Now, I'm not going to dwell on what happened in the past, because people have made mistakes and done things that they're not proud of and they didn't want to do, but they felt they had no choice. But from this day on, be responsible, obey the law, don't force your will on anybody else, and be very responsible if you consider engaging in animal love, which can end up with having children. And this brings me to the point of being responsible love. The highest love on this planet is one man, one woman. A monogamous relationship, faithful to each other from opposite sexes. There is no other love in the universe can compare to it. And there's no other species on this earth that can enjoy it. And trees know this. And they want to see us in love because they feel us. And when we feel love, true love, trees feel true love. And they love it. And they want it for us. So go after true love with all your heart, soul and mind. It's a great way to honour God by loving each other, being faithful to each other. Now for kids, I'm going to explain to you. You might not be aware of this because adults do this in private, okay? But now adults, don't worry. I'm going to couch this so that kids can understand, okay? Without ruining their innocence. Now, kids, if you see someone from the opposite sex and you think you like them to be your sweetheart, here is what you do to show your love, as to try and win a sweetheart. That person you like to be a sweetheart, if the boy you see a girl and she's pretty, she's beautiful, she's clever, you like her to be a sweetheart, ask her 3 favourite sweet fruit, maybe mango, banana, strawberry for example. And see with girls, if you see a boy and you like him, he's handsome, he's brave, maybe he's not, maybe he's geeky looking and not very handsome, but maybe he's brave and he's funny and you like being with him and you like him to be your sweetheart, whatever. See, if you ask him for his 3 favourite sweet fruit. Now for boys, what you do is you get the juice of those 3 sweet fruit and you pulp them. So they're a juice or a pulp. And you put that into a mould with a little lollipop holder. And you freeze it. Girls, you do it slightly different. When you find out there are 3 favourite sweet fruit, you chop it up into pieces, into chunks, and you freeze it first. And when it's frozen, you take it out, you put it into a food processor, and you chop it up until it's a fine dust. Add a little bit of juice, and it will turn into a sorbet, or like an ice cream texture. You give it to your sweetheart, and he can lick it to his heart's desire. Devour all that beautiful juice. It's very healthy, it's very nutritious. Same with boys. You have that lollipop, you give it to your sweetheart, and she can suck that lollipop. She can devour all the juice in that lollipop. It's very healthy, very nutritious. It's a great expression of love. And as I say, you won't have seen this before because your parents and adults do this in private. They share their ice cream and their lollipops in private with each other. And so should you. You should do it in private. Give your lollipop to your sweetheart in private. And as you grow, you will learn the right proportion of fruit which will win your sweetheart. Sometimes it turns out it's not your true love. You may feel disappointed. You may feel a little bit heartbroken sometimes. That's life. You try and try. Some you win, some you lose. But you go on to another. Now, I said, this is nutritious and it's healthy. And it is, as long as it's honest. And as long as it's not cheating. You don't give your lollipop to two different girls at the same time. Oh, yeah, you like both of them. You don't know what to choose. You pick one. And you share your lollipop with her. Let her suck and lick your lollipop. And if it turns out she's not your true love, then try someone else. Don't go back. Try someone else. But don't share your lollipop with two people at the same time. Same with girls. Don't give your ice cream to two men at the same time. Give one to one and then secretly give it to another. Or even openly. Don't do it. It's an abomination. That's cheating. God hates that. You will not find true love that way. And you'll waste your time. And as I said, plants, trees especially, feel is very strong. And if they see you wasting time, it's an insult to them. And they hate that. And they will influence your dreams to lead you away from true love because you don't deserve it. So don't cheat. It's an abomination to God. As I say, that's true love. One man, one woman. Now, if anybody's involved in any other kind of relationships, wife swapping, swinging, homosexuality, all these relationships, these people aren't necessarily evil. Many great people have been misled, misinformed, taught to do the wrong things, and taught that it's normal and it's healthy. It's something to be proud of. It's not. Whatever it is, it's not something to be proud of. True love is the ultimate love that you should aspire to. But with true love, there's real passion. There's highs and lows. There's glory. Sometimes you may be devastated with a loss. You may be brought to tears by love. Sometimes tears of disappointment and loss. Sometimes tears of joy with winning. But that's what true love exists between one man, one woman. It's the law to have one wife, one partner. Now, if anybody's in a polygamous marriage, I encourage you to pick one wife, or if it's a woman with many husbands, pick one husband and ask that person to remain with you as your true love. Pick carefully. All others are free to go and find their true love. And if you have any children to polygamous marriages, you still have a responsibility to provide for each and every child from any relationships in that marriage. And in the future, there's to be no more of these institutionalized marriages, taking vows, giving dowries, arranged marriages, where people don't have a choice. None of that. That's all an abomination. It's against the law. Everything must be consensual between adults who understand what they're doing. And when you say to someone that you're in a monogamous relationship with, when you say, I love you, you're in effect saying, I'm faithful to you. You are my one true love. And I'm going to be honest with you. You don't have to make an oath or a vow. You don't need somebody in a purple dress with a funny hat on them, calling themselves a priest, to verify it. No. It's between each and every person. When you say I love you, that means I'm faithful to you. And I'm going to be honest with you and share my life with you. And I tell you, be very careful. If you decide that you want to get involved in animal love with the risk of having a child, you take a very long time, I'm talking years, of sharing each other's ice lollipops and ice cream of love, until you trust that partner 100%. And if you do decide to have animal love and end up with children, you bring them up in the laws of God. But because you bring them into the world, you must depart from this world. If you bring a child in with birth, you must die. Now, you may be born again in human form, and you may make it onto the spaceship in this body, but not in this life. It will be in a different life. You may not. You may only make it back into the realm of life as an animal or a plant, and still make it up to the spaceship in genetic form with the water when we move on to another planet. So be very careful and be very serious. No more written contracts of love or marriages. If you want to have parties and celebrate your love publicly, declare your love, that's fine, that's good. No more lies. It detracts from true love, and it detracts from reaching an understanding with God and with each other. There's nothing more powerful in the world than truth. And if you've done something that you're not proud of, if you make a mistake, go to the people that you've sinned against, the people that you've wronged, and admit what you've done to them, so they can put things into context, and they may have a possibility of forgiving you. If they can't bring it into their hearts to forgive you, you have to accept that as well. But beg God for forgiveness. As long as you do as much as you can to right your wrongs, God will value that. And the thing about forgiveness is, no matter how bad your crime has been, if you generally did not understand what you were doing, or you're acting in extreme distress, thinking it was self-defense or whatever, even if you've murdered hundreds of people, that can be forgiven. Because the reality is, you can't go back to the past. What's done is done. You can't go back and change 1 second of the past. And that's how you learn to forgive others and to forgive yourself for what you've done. If you're truly sorry, and if people are truly remorseful. Now, just as I was talking about recently, about appropriateness for children. No more pornography. Pornography is not permitted on this planet, because the fact is, even if adults want to view it, there's no guarantee that any child will not get access to that material and have their innocence ruined. So pornography, take it off the internet, take it off the shelves. No more pornography. Anyone who disobeys that order, that commandment, you face going straight to hell. Because the rape of a child, or taking away a child's innocence, making it aware of animal love at the inappropriate time, is an abomination. I'm going to talk about that later. It's the worst crime imaginable, and I'm going to explain very soon why. Now, I'm going to address all the religions, as I said I would. Now, for people who call themselves Christians, a lot of you got the right idea: non-violence, tolerance, equality, kindness, virtue. As the same is present in many religions. The same ideas and concepts are present in Judaism, in Islam, in Buddhism, in Hinduism, in Taoism. Many religions have the same ideas, principles of honesty, non-violence, non-theft, being kind, being honest. But I said the last time I was here that the Antichrist would come and deceive people and lead them away from me. And I haven't. And the fact is, even if you are Christian in your heart, 95%, maybe more, of people in this world that call themselves Christian actually follow the teachings of the Antichrist and disobey the teachings that I preach to the world. And that Antichrist is the one that you call St. Paul, and his friend Luke, also an Antichrist. And if you have any doubt about the fact that Paul was an Antichrist, if you look in the Gospel of Matthew, there's two things I said. One was, I require acts of compassion, not sacrifice. I said to find out what that means. Sacrifice in its true form means the killing and eating of animals. I said, don't do that. Paul encouraged people to murder animals and to eat people in different species form. I also said, and it's recorded correctly in the Gospel of Matthew, do not take an oath of any kind. Not an oath, not a vow. Because if you're honest, you're honest. Taking a vow or taking an oath will not make you any more honest, and it will not invoke God to witness. God witnesses everything, all the time. Not just your acts and your deeds, but your very thoughts. God knows everything. And as for taking a vow, if you take a vow and it turns out to be the wrong course of action, you're compelled to be bound to that. And that's an abomination to God. You saw what happened if you read the Bible about Jephthah. He took a vow to sacrifice the first thing that came towards him when he got home. And it turned out to be his daughter. And he ended up murdering his daughter because of this stupid vow. God never asked him to murder his daughter, but he got it in his head to have his honour. He had to murder his daughter. It's an abomination. And if Paul really was from me, as he said he was, he would have known this, and he would not have taken a vow. But when he was with Priscilla and Aquinas, he took a vow. He took all the work of the devil. He invited evil into his life and into his heart. He was possessed by a devil, which he did not test. He was so evil and vile that when that demon possessed him and said it was Jesus, he just capitulated and said, okay, I'll do whatever. And he believed that it was Jesus. It was not me. And another thing, if anybody has any other doubts that Paul was an Antichrist, Paul equated himself with God. Now I'll tell you this, I don't know whose name is in the book of life. There is no public judgments. Each and every person answers to God Almighty, Jah, the Spirit of the universe. And it's a private thing between each and every person and God, whose name is in the book of life. No one else knows, and no one else has the right to judge anybody, no matter what you think. The reality is you don't know all the facts. Only God knows all the facts and can judge. But Paul decided he was equal to God. He decided that Clemens had his name in the book of life, and others had their names in the book of life. He equated himself with God. And only the devil himself equates himself with God. But Paul did it. He came from the devil. As for Luke, Luke wrote second-hand information that he got, and he used that information not in the truth that it was meant. He used it as a political means because he saw how powerful my message was, but he misrepresented the truth. Now he said that I said you must hate your family and your friends, and if you don't hate them, you have nothing to do with me, you have nothing to do with God. That's a lie. I never preach hatred. That's an impossible teaching. How can you hate your family? The people that you're close to, that you know best. Some people fall out with their family, but it's very hard for most people to hate their family, especially if they're a good person, a loving person. It's a ridiculous teaching. I never preached hatred. That was taking something I said out of context and completely twisting it to something that it was not. The other thing that Luke did, was he condoned war. When I was being arrested, he wrote that I said to the disciples, sell your robes and buy weapons of war, buy swords, thereby justifying violence and war in my absence. This was a political move to get people to fight. It's not from me. He was an antichrist also. So, do what is right. And for any of these Bible thumpers that come along saying, everything in the Bible is the truth, it all comes from God, it's impossible. If you look at the Gospel of Luke and compare it with Matthew, the second part of the Gospel of Luke, it says that Judas took the money, the 30 pieces of silver, and bought a field, but ended up falling in that field and getting killed in that field, having his gut splatters all across that field. The Gospel of Matthew, based on the truth and the law, said that when Judas realised what he had done, he went back to the Pharisees and he asked them to take the money back, and when they wouldn't take it, he threw the money on the ground and went out and killed himself the very same night, because there's no life without the truth and without God. So it can't be both, it has to be one or the other. Now the Gospel of Luke said that after I was murdered, I resurrected, and eventually I descended into heaven. I left the world to suffer pain and murder and rape and torture, while I went up and sat in heaven, enjoying myself, looking down at people on earth, deciding, oh, maybe I'll come back someday when it suits me. Now you can believe that to be the truth, but it's the only gospel that says that I went up to heaven and left people on the earth. Now it is written, in the modern version of Mark, it's written in the very last chapter. But that was added. That's not in the original book of Mark. That also was a political move to get people to follow that dogma. Now the Gospel of Matthew clearly states that after I was murdered, that I appeared to people. And I said, I remain with you here on the world to suffer, to endure the hardships with you forever, even until the end of the world itself. So you have to decide, do you believe in the Gospel of Matthew, where I said, I stay with people and I remain with you on the planet till the end of the world? Or do you believe the satanic Gospel of Luke? There's a little bit of a clue there. So do what's right and obey the law that I have just explained to you once again. As for the Israelites, your forefathers were chosen to bring the message to the world because they received that message clearer than anybody else. We transmitted telepathically the same message all around the world. The Koreans were very, very good, almost being chosen, because understanding the message that was coming down about creation, their creation story is very close to the truth. But by far and away, the best interpretation, the natural prophets on this planet were your forefathers, Abraham and Jacob and many others. And that's why the Israelites were chosen to bring the message of the law to the world, to your brothers and sisters, not because you're superior to anybody else, but because your forefathers were able to understand the message clearer and express it clearer than anybody else in the world. That's why they were chosen. And I came down, once they were chosen, once we realised they were the people to deliver the message, I came down and I made contact with Moses. And the soul that is within me now is exactly the same soul that dwelt within the Ark of the Covenant. And I dwelt in that Ark of the Covenant for hundreds of years, till eventually I said to King Solomon, I would go and dwell in deep darkness. And of course that means that I would die and live amongst the dead. What it did not say is that I would be reincarnated many times. One life and one death for every death I was responsible for as Lord of the Israelites. And eventually I would be born again as a man amongst the Israelites, born of a virgin. And my mother was a virgin. She was a young teenage girl. And a paedophile came along and said that he was the angel Gabriel and that he was sent by God and she was to bear the Son of God. And this was a trick used by a lot of paedophiles at that time. Little did he know that the Lord of the Ark of the Covenant would be conceived. Now, he tried to rape her, but he became premature, and his seed entered my mother. And she became pregnant, but his member did not. Her hymen was not broken, and I grew inside her. And when I was born, she remained a virgin. She suffered all her life the turmoil and the torment of how she'd been deceived. And I suffered because of her torment as well. But I overcame because it was my destiny to overcome. And there's some very important things about this. It is the most despicable crime, the rape of a child or the taking of a child's innocence. And it shows also that you're not determined by your genes. You're not determined by your parents' behaviour. You are master of your own destiny. You are in control of your destiny. You decide where you go in life. Not anybody else. Not your parents. Nobody else. You are master of your destiny. My father was a criminal, a child rapist in that life. And I was God's representative on earth. The Lord, the interpreter for God, bringing the message, universal message of the law of karma. And for early Jews who say that Jesus Christ, I'm not the Messiah, and I was not the Messiah the last time, I tell you what, you're hypocrites and you're blasphemers, because what in effect you're saying is our God is so powerful. He can take the form of a man and wrestle with our forefathers on the mountain, but he cannot be born of a woman and be raised amongst us as one of us. That's hypocrisy. It's blasphemy. What in effect you're saying is our God is so powerful. He can make the surface of the water so strong that he can hold back an entire sea and let the Israelites pass out of Egypt. He can make the surface of the water so strong. He can raise up the river Jordan and let the Israelites pass over. But our God is not so powerful that he can be born of a woman and make the surface of the water so strong that he can walk across the surface of the water. That's hypocrisy, it's blasphemy. In fact, what you're saying is that our God is so powerful that when our forefathers were in the desert, that our God was able to bring manna from nothing, manifest bread from heaven, make it appear out of nowhere in the desert, and we eat that bread. That's how powerful our God is. And our God can close up the eyes of man so that he cannot see what's really in front of his eyes, and harden his heart so we cannot understand what's very obvious and clear. But our God is not so powerful that he can be born of a woman, be raised amongst us, and in front of a crowd of 5,000 or 7,000, open the eyes of man again, and again bring down manna from heaven as bread, and feed those 5,000, those 7,000 with that manna from heaven. That's hypocrisy. It's blasphemy. And yes, we did do that using teleportation. An early quantum physicist on the planet today will verify that that is possible. Scientists on Earth have already done very, very basic transportation, teleportation. And we do it very advanced on our spaceship. We transport, teleport food from the spaceship down to the Earth. That's how it performed that miracle. So, admit that I am, and recognize that I am the Lord, your God, and I'll remain so until you're able to communicate directly with God yourself and obey the law instinctively. Now, for Buddhists and Hindus and Taoists and other religions like that, you understand reincarnation. You've had great leaders over the years. If you're not familiar with my story, Jesus Christ, and the history of the Israelites, if you read the Bible, you'll come to understand it. It might take a lot of time, but you'll come to understand it and realise that I am a universal soul. My soul originated from a different part of the galaxy, different planet. But I came to the earth, and I'm every bit as much human as everybody else now. I came into this world to suffer like every other human suffers, so I can bring you and raise you into the ways of heaven, the ways of God. And you understand the basic laws: truthfulness, non-violence, non-theft, good intentions. It's basic laws, universal. You already know that. Now, Muslims, you also have great faith, and you have been wronged, scapegoated in the last few years. Many Muslims have been sitting in their houses just trying to get on with their own lives, trying to make the most of the life that they have. But they've had foreigners coming into their countries, murdering them, left, right and centre, murdering their families, murdering people in their communities, in their tens of thousands, in their millions. Innocent people murdered for no reason other than these people wanted to murder. They wanted control of your oil, of your banks, of your countries, and they're prepared to murder innocent people to do that. Use lies to do that. Whether it's in Afghanistan or Iraq or Libya or anywhere else, murderers. And I understand your pain and your suffering and your anger. And a lot of you have become very extreme, very distressed, very violent. It's not your nature. One thing that Muhammad said, and was correct: everyone is born a believer. I believe that's what the same Muslim means, a believer. And everyone is born a believer, with peace in their heart, with love in their heart. But that has been taken from you. But I say this also: it says in the Quran, if this book were not from God, you'd be able to find fault in it. And so if anybody can find fault in the Quran and prove and verify that it is not from God, then you must disband that book. You must accept the reality. And I read the Quran, and I tell you this: the first time I read it, I was taken aback. I was struck by how beautiful some of the imagery is. Compassion, forgiveness, humility, honour, virtue. Many wonderful things. If I was compared to a food, I would compare it to a pure fruit ice cream. But there's a flip side to that. While eating that ice cream, there's a few shards of glass. And if you swallow them, they cut you from the inside out, drain the very life from you, and eventually kill you. There is the condoning of prostitution, pimping prostitutes, owning slaves, abominations. But the two examples I'm going to use to make it very, very clear to you that this book is not from God. Muhammad started out with good intentions. He saw a lot of evil in the world and he wanted to make it better, and he prayed. But the fact is, he came in contact with a spirit, again, Gabriel, the god of paedophiles, who misled him and gave him the wrong message. And that's where that book comes from. Now, the two examples I'm going to use to prove this to you, so you find the courage and the strength to leave Islam, to close the Quran and leave it. The first one, chapter 4, An-Nisa, verse 34. It says in this verse, two parts. The first part says, God created man superior to woman. Incorrect. God created man and woman equal. Different strengths, different weaknesses, different ways of looking at the world, but equal. Man, fair enough, it's true, is generally physically stronger. But women is stronger in many other ways. And I can prove this. Now, I'm telling you, the wheel is invented by a woman. I can't prove that. But there's a lot of evidence to back up that statement. And I believe it was created by a woman who created the wheel when she was making pots. so that she could turn the clay and make a more symmetrical pot. And that wheel is now used in every machine in the world, whether it's an aeroplane, a wristwatch, a water pump, everything. That one invention by a woman revolutionised the world. Now, as I say, I can't prove that, but I guarantee you that was a woman that invented the wheel. But what I can prove to you and verify for you, and this is for everybody watching this message on your digital televisions, on your laptops, on your mobile phones, on your tablets, with your washing machine going, or with your microwave cooking some food for you, all that computer technology, you have to thank a woman for. Because a woman wrote the very first computer program. Ada Lovelace, in the 1800s, created the very first computer program. Almost 200 years ago, she published her work in 1843, the very first computer program. And it took 10 years before somebody took her work and talked about it again. And it was more years before the second computer programs were developed. So you have a woman to thank for this day coming and possibly saving mankind. If she hadn't have come when she did and created that program, mankind could have been waiting another 10, 20, 30 years, and it might have been too late. These criminals with nuclear weapons might have wiped out humanity if it wasn't for that woman. Now, the second part of that verse, it says that if a man thinks that a woman is going to be disobedient, disobey him, show bad behaviour, he may punish her. He may even lock her in a room and beat her. This is not from God. That woman may be virtuous. She may not be an absolute saint. She may have no intentions of leaving this man or disobeying him in any way. Not that she should obey him. She shouldn't. The first commandment. So you shalt not have false gods before thee. Obey only God. Obey nobody else but God. Not a man, not a woman. Obey only God. And she may have no intentions. But in his mind, now he may be a thief. He may be a criminal, a liar. But he's read the Quran and he says in his heart, oh, God forgives me for doing that theft, for those lies. And because he prays 5 times every day and because he does the Ramadan every year, he says, I'm a good man. I'm a good Muslim. I'm a holy man. And he thinks he has the right to beat that woman. Because he thinks that she's going to do something. She may have no intentions of doing anything, but if he thinks it, he believes he has the right to beat her for nothing. Her bad behaviour, in fact, might even be making humour to try and lighten his load, seeing him distressed or sad. Make a little bit of joke, try and make him happy. He might perceive that as being mocking him, laughing at him, and beat her for that. This is not from God. Absolutely not from God. This comes from the mind of a man, an insecure man, misogynist. He thought he was superior to women, not from God. The other example is the same chapter, An-Nisa, verse 89. It says, many people will not believe what's written in the Quran, and they will encourage other people not to believe what's in the Quran. So, if people do not believe what's written in this book, and they turn away from you, you may go after them and you may murder them. This is not from God. This is the words of a cult that murders people who do not obey what they're told to obey. A good shepherd, if one sheep leaves the flock, does not go after that sheep and murder it. No. He does not send his dogs after it to maul it to death. No. He tries to get it back into the flock. And if he is a good shepherd, that sheep will hear and will return to the flock of its own accord, its own free will, where there is safety. And the thing about Muhammad was, Muhammad did not live a long life like Moses, because he obeyed the law? No. Very soon after he finished the Quran, he became very sick, full of evil and sin, and he died very quickly. A matter of a few years, and he was dead from disease, disharmony within his own heart and soul and mind, because he committed the worst atrocity, the worst sin, worse even than murder, and that was the rape of a child. Now, he had a dream. He had many wives, but he had a dream that he was to marry a young girl called Aisha. She was only 5 years old at the time. And after that dream, he went along to the father of that child and he asked for her hand in marriage. And the father agreed. And he gave, there may have been some money involved, he may have sold his daughter to Muhammad. And Muhammad kept that child and tried to get her to agree to have animal love with him, animal sex. And she refused. For 4 years she refused. But he groomed her. He pressured her. He psychologically abused her for 4 years. And at the age of 9, she gave in. And she agreed to become his wife. And he raped her. And that is rape. A child of 9 cannot understand the implications of marriage, cannot understand true love at that age. Marriage must be consensual. That was not marriage. That was the rape of a child. And I'll explain why it's the most horrific crime and the worst crime imaginable. Because if you look at Ada Lovelace, who created the computer program, if she had been abused as a child, she may never have created the computer program. She may never have had the peace of mind. She might have been so traumatized, she never got that opportunity. And if she hadn't got that opportunity, it would have held back all of mankind for maybe 10, 20, 30 years. Meaning maybe all of mankind might have been wiped out by nuclear war or environmental holocaust. So that one act did not just affect that young child's life. It affected unimaginable, uncountable other people. It's the most despicable crime. And I said before, if anybody harms a child in any way, abuses a child in any way, better for them that they had never been born. Better for them that they had a millstone tied around their neck and thrown to the bottom of the deepest ocean. Anyone who does harm a child, straight to hell. The water will leave your body. Even thinking about harming a child and trying to act on that impulse, straight to hell. The water will leave your body, become entombed in your body, attached to sulphur, alone in your body, remain on this planet, alone with your thoughts, forever, for billions of years. So you're warned very clearly. Do not follow the teachings of a child rapist, taking the message of the God of paedophiles, Gabriel. Do not. Understand that I am the messenger of God. I speak the truth. I'm here to save you. And I make it very easy. But unfortunately, there are people in Islam who will use this verse in the book to murder people. So you have to be brave. You have to hit them with the truth. And you have to hit them with faith in what is really the words of God. But have faith. Do what's correct. Do what's right. And you will persevere. And you will live forever. If you don't, you will die forever. As for atheists, a lot of people call themselves scientists and they say that science proves that there's no God. This is incorrect. Science glorifies God. It bears witness to God's absolute majesty and wonder and beauty and magic. And just like the laws of karma are the same from the very beginning of time, the laws of gravity and other laws of physics are there from the very beginning. They're not to be changed. But a lot of scientists say that this is proof that God does not exist. Even these scientists who themselves were born believers but become arrogant in their heart because they're good at mathematics or they're good at chemistry or whatever. They think that they're greater than God and they can lead people away from God. And I'll use the example of the Big Bang theorists. This Big Bang theory, it's not science. Science is the study of the material world based on evidence. The Big Bang theory is not based on evidence. It's fairy tale science. Look, there's a frog. Bang, it's a prince. Look, there's a pumpkin. Bang, it's a horse-drawn carriage. Oh, look, there's nothing. No time, no matter. Bang, it's a universe. It's fairy tale science. It's not backed up by evidence. Whatever it is, it's not science. It defies the laws of physics. And it goes against the laws of physics, the known laws of physics. Now, Einstein based his laws of relativity on evidence. But Big Bang theorists say Einstein was wrong, incorrect. Without any evidence to back that up, they have the audacity and the arrogance to say that Einstein was incorrect. They say not only can matter travel faster than the speed of light, not 2 times, 3 times faster than the speed of light, but 100 billion gazillion times faster than the speed of light. A number so ridiculous. If Einstein were alive today, he'd be slapping them around the head with a wet newspaper saying, "Get out of the hall!" Ridiculous. That's not science. It's science fiction. It's theoretical science. It's not real science. Newton, his laws were based on evidence, backing up his theories. But the Big Bang theorists say that Newton was incorrect. His law of thermodynamics doesn't apply to them when it comes to the Big Bang. No evidence Newton had, but still they say that he's incorrect. It's arrogance, and it's not science. And it's about time these scientists stepped down and admitted that they're wrong and stop holding up true science. There's a lot of good science out there. People with good theories about a much, much, much older universe, which we know. The universe is much older. There's some objects in this universe which are so huge, it's impossible for them to have been formed in 13.7 billion years. More like 137 billion years, or 1,370 billion years would be closer to the reality. And this is backed up by good evidence, using the laws of relativity, using Newton's laws, Occam's law. So listen to those people. And I say this, even if the Big Bang had any credibility, which it doesn't, in a scientific framework, it does not have credibility. So many holds, it does not hold water. But even if it did, there is only one thing which can explain the conditions necessary for the initial Big Bang. Because there is nothing in nature which can explain those conditions. You must look outside nature, into the supernatural. And what we know, which has been testified by me, many other prophets, many other holy people, is the existence of God, a real living God which communicates with us and is real and present here every minute of every day. And for these Big Bang theorists who say, "Oh, it just happened," that is so misleading. It's a lie. Nothing in physics just happens. The very foundation of physics is cause and effect. Nothing just happens. That's a lie. So don't listen to these liars. Arrogant people. And as for these guys that pretended they went to the moon, not on a mission did they go to the moon. Impossible. They never went. They're liars. Apart from the fact that the temperature of the moon is over 100 degrees Celsius, they would have roasted alive. There's more gamma radiation emitted from the moon that is emitted from the sun. They would have been fried, like stepping into a microwave. No way did they stand on the moon. And I said this in the Gospels. I said, when you see the abomination of desolation standing in the holy place where it does not belong, you'll know it's near the end of times. Now, I could go for hours explaining the science about why it's impossible for them to have gone to the moon. I'm not going to waste my time on those liars. I'll tell you guys who pretended you went to the moon, stand up now and tell the truth and save yourselves from hellfire or the bottomless pit. Tell the truth. And for anybody who's any dirty little secrets, now is the time to get it out and ask for forgiveness and repent. Now, I've explained the law and I've addressed all the major religions and belief systems in the world, generally. Now, I'm going to talk about a few things I want you to do positively. I would like you to dedicate the Sabbath to God, to meditating on God, the mystery of the Holy Spirit, and the glory and the wonder and the love of God. Every Sabbath, from sundown on Friday to sundown on Saturday, or even if there's some place where there's different times of the year, you have long days and short days, pick a time about, say, for example, 7:30 on a Friday to 7:30 p.m. on a Saturday. And for those 24 hours, rest, do not work, do not spend money, meditate, do not even eat, rest your insides, fast with water for 24 hours every Sabbath. That's for adults. Turn off your technology, your TVs, your laptops, your mobile phones. Just keep maybe mobile phones for emergency situations, so you can ring for emergency if emergencies happen. As for children, the same. Turn off TVs, turn off the technology, get outside into the fresh air where you can. Play, have fun, make poems, dance, make music. Go into the countryside, enjoy nature, enjoy and celebrate the wonder of nature, God's creation. You don't even need to fast when you're growing up. Not until you're about 20, 21, when you finish growing, roughly 20, 21. Then you start fasting after that. But for the Sabbath day, just turn off the technology, devote it to nature, to God's creation, and enjoy yourselves, have great fun. Now, if there are parents looking after kids, I would say 1 week, mother meditates while father looks after the kids. And if whoever's looking after the kids is allowed to eat during those 24 hours, well, you need a lot of energy to keep up with those kids, full of energy. And then the next week, mum looks after the kids and dad doesn't meditate, and share it amongst yourselves. And if kids want to meditate, and if they want to fast, say from maybe the age of 15, 16, if they want to do that, that's fine, but no pressure. And I tell you kids, there's no need to do it at that age. And in fact, it might be counterproductive. The best thing when you're at that age, just to go with your instincts. If you're hungry, eat. If you feel like running about, get up and run about. Learn, as you grow up, you learn to be more disciplined. But while you're young, just enjoy yourself as much as possible. Obey the law, of course. Don't steal, don't lie, don't cheat, don't harm anybody, don't go around fighting. Be good and make God proud of you. Give thanks to God for everything that God has provided us with. And when you pray, realise that your prayers do get answered. In your dreams very often there's messages, communication from God. Sometimes those dreams are influenced from communication from plants, from animals, from other humans. But very often it's from God. But the more you document your dreams, if you wake up and you write down your dream, it'll help you understand your dreams and document your dreams more. A dream journal will help you understand if God is answering your prayers and lead you to the right way of doing things, the right way of living. I want you now, because you have more money left, you're not paying mortgages, there's no national debts anymore, it's all been cancelled. This is the day of the Jubilee. All debt is cancelled. It's all against the law. So you should have more money at your disposal and put that money where it should be going. into education, into healthcare, social welfare. Some of that money transferred over to places like Africa, India, Nepal. Bring these people out of living in mud huts with no electricity, no running water. Give them modest but nice homes, electricity, broadband, water for everyone. Good roads, bicycles for everyone. The best mode of transport on the planet, as far as I'm concerned, is a bicycle. You can travel the world on a bicycle, no fuel necessary. Be extremely healthy. Twice as efficient as most other exercise, twice as efficient as running or walking. Very little impact. Very invigorating. So put that money into building things. And I would like to see, even in these impoverished places, I'd like to see sports stadiums built. For every, say, for example, 30 to 50,000 people, I'd like to see a decent sports stadium for soccer, athletics, and maybe 20 or 30 small all-weather pitches, multi-purpose pitches, and an Olympic-sized swimming pool for every 30 to 50,000 people. Very possible. I want to see it happening. So please do that. Get your money into organisations which are rebuilding this world, bringing these people into the 21st century. In organisations which are run as cooperatives. There's no abuse of power, no abuse of money. The CEO gets the same rate of pay as the person cleaning the toilets. Now, I understand, because of what I've said, laying down the law, some people will lose their jobs, lose their livelihoods. Landlords, butchers, for example. And if people are in that situation where they find that they've lost their jobs, you can't blame me. I'm just here explaining the truth. It's the people that have lied to you and spent billions of dollars making you believe lies, making you think that animal foods is healthy. Well, it's the very thing that makes you sick and kills you. That's not my fault. It's their fault. I'm here to lay down the truth and the law. But if anybody does find himself out of a job, out of a livelihood, don't worry. Something will turn up. In the meantime, if you see somebody needs food, needs shelter, provide them with food, provide them with shelter. They are your family. You're one human family. Live together as a family. Open up your borders. No more passports, no more visas. Everyone able to travel freely, wherever they want in the world. And the right to keep their privacy of who they are. You do not even have to tell someone what your name is. You have the right to travel anywhere, without restriction, without asking for permission from some self-imposed authority. In the future, we'll be moving away from money. And when it comes to border control, as I say, open your borders. Let people come and go. Now, there may be some rogue elements for a short time who may be thinking this is an opportunity to do some murder, blow up a plane or whatever. So you may still search people going to the airports. Make sure that they don't have any dangerous things on them. But that's it. People have the right to travel without passports and visas. Because the thing is, criminals will bypass that. If they want to commit a crime, they will find a way. They will use false passports, or they will breach borders. And the very people who are controlling those borders, the governments and the military, are the worst criminals in the world, some of them. So no more. It's against human rights. It's against the law of God. You're one family. Embrace each other. Come back together now as humanity. One family. Loving each other. Different cultures, different backgrounds, different countries. All one family. Now, I said I will explain how I performed all the miracles so you can understand that I truly am Jesus. And these miracles are scientific, backed up with evidence. The very first miracle, turning the water into wine, the wedding of Cana. Now you see in the Bible, in the Testaments, I was in the cornfields, picking corn on the Sabbath, when the Pharisees came along, tried to trick me, tried to make me guilty of breaking the law. Now I was not actually picking corn. The same with my disciples. We were actually picking little black fungus that grows on the corn. In English it's called ergot. And from this you get a psychedelic substance which is called LSD, lysergic acid. It's a psychedelic substance. And it helps you connect with reality and to understand the truth. It helps you laugh. It helps you enjoy yourself. It helps you remove fear. And that's what I put into the water. And people drank it at the wedding of Cana. They had psychedelic experiences. They had experiences of love and truth. And that's why they enjoyed it. It was the best wine they ever had. And the reality is that most of the psychiatric institutions of people suffering extreme emotional distress, they were almost emptied in the 1950s and the 1960s when LSD started to be used. People's minds got freed and they were able to leave. The distress left them. They were healed. But this did not suit the governments that want people to kill each other, go to war, and to be oppressed. So they decided it was against the law to take LSD and psychedelic substances. People were not allowed to have their minds opened and their minds freed. They were to remain slaves. So I say again, prohibition does not work. It's against the law. You have the right to decide for yourself. These are all based on natural substances. Magic mushrooms, ergot, many other psychedelic substances. They're created by God to open up man's mind. But be careful. They can be very powerful. And they can be a huge shock to people who have been brought up with lies and illusion all their lives. So be very careful. Treat them with the utmost respect and restraint. As I explained how I walked on the water, I already explained how I fed the 5,000. Quantum physics. As for the man that was possessed by the demons, and I sent the demons into the pigs, and the pigs went off to the water and were drowned. Psychiatric illness is a lie. It's emotional distress. It's mental distress. This man had been sexually and physically and psychologically abused by many people in his community. That was his demons. The same as anybody. They say this thing, schizophrenia. When you talk to people who are supposedly suffering from schizophrenia, it's not a disease. It's a natural reaction of your brain trying to make sense out of an evil world. If you look at open dialogue in Scandinavia, they've reduced schizophrenia where it basically doesn't exist anymore. When you talk to people, that's where you find healing. Communicate with each other. And in order to break this illusion of this man who'd been abused, when I commanded the spirits leave him, the spaceship up above, which was there all my life, the spaceship emitted a high-pitched sound, which humans can't hear, but pigs can. And it was very irritating. And naturally, instinctively, the pigs ran down to the water to submerge their heads under the water to drown out this piercing sound. And they remained under the water until the sound stopped. By this time, the people had been panicked. They'd run off telling everyone what had happened. And the people in that land asked me to leave. You expect they might ask me to stay and do some more healing. But they were responsible for the abuse of that man. And they knew it. That's why they asked me to leave. The pigs, as soon as the noise stopped, they got back onto land. Pigs are good at swimming. They got back onto the land, free. That was that miracle. As for the fish, the miraculous catch, well, I did this a few times now. What I did was, when the ship was out in the water, I would be at the shore, or on the boat near the shore, and I would have some fish that other people had left over, people had offered me, or that the disciples had. And I took that fish and I put it into the water. And the fish in the water would smell that blood, and they'd come over and they'd eat that. Another fish would hear the feeding frenzy, and they would come over until eventually almost all the fish were over eating this food where I was. So there's no fish left out on the lake or out in the seas. Then when these fishermen came back in saying that couldn't catch anything, I got on the boat with them. We went back out into the sea. Again, covertly, I dropped some fish into the water, some bread into the water. And the fish came along, and they fed again, and they gathered again to where I was. And when the time was right, I said to put your nets back into the water. And this time there was so many fish there that they couldn't lift the nets out of the water. And invariably, they had to just let the nets down and let the fish out again, because they couldn't lift it in. There were so many fish, they couldn't lift the nets onto the boat. The boat would have been capsized. So they had to let the fish go, so nothing was killed. That's how I performed the miraculous catch. As for raising the dead, your soul cannot leave your body unless God gives the go-ahead and takes your soul to be reincarnated. God is the guide of the other world. The Holy Spirit leads you from one life to another, one life to the next, using water to transport you. And when these people were dead, clinically dead, their soul remained in their body until I arrived. God did not take their soul, but God informed me that their soul was still in their body. And when I arrived, by harnessing chi or prana within my body through meditation and prayer, using that energy, that chi, that prana, I transferred that energy in their body, and they became re-energized, and they came back to life. And that is how it did healing, many other kinds of healing, using chi. And Buddhists know this. Taoists know this. Kung Fu monks know this. When you meditate, you harness chi or prana. It's a certain energy in your body which is very, very powerful. It's a biological form of electricity. It's very powerful for healing, which can be transferred for healing. That's how I perform the healing miracles. Now, the one miracle I'm not going to explain is the miracle of the coin in the fish's mouth, when Peter went off to get the coin. Now, there's a cult in this world, a religion that calls itself, houses the largest paedophile ring in the world, is responsible for many abysmal crimes. Now, there's many good people, many great people in this church, this cult. And they say they get their authority from me, through Peter, the disciple. They say that they have authority to be God's rightful church on earth. And I'll tell you, they're liars. But if they really believe that true, then let them explain how that miracle was performed. I've explained all the others. I'm not going to explain that. I'll leave that with the Catholic Church. If you're really the legacy of Peter, you explain how Peter performed that miracle, getting the coin out of the fish's mouth. Now, it is written that I rose from the dead. Now, this is true in a sense, but it's not, strictly speaking, exactly true. When it was confirmed, when the spaceship realised they were waiting for me to reappear in human form, and they searched around to see where I was, and when they realised that it was actually me, Jesus Christ, when I came to be baptised and it was confirmed I was the soul, the Lord of the Ark of the Covenant, and I reappeared in human form, there was a dove sent down from the spaceship to land on my head, one to confirm that I was the Lord, and secondly, that dove took a sample of my DNA from my head and went back up to the spaceship. And once back in the spaceship, work began on creating an avatar with my exact genes, an avatar, to replace me when I was murdered, to make people believe. So when I was murdered, I was crucified, I died, and my soul went into the land of the dead and remained there. And in place, what really came back, what people thought was me, was an avatar. And the soul within that avatar was my Father, my Heavenly Father, who came down onto the planet to be with mankind. And so, in a sense, my Heavenly Father became my son, because it was my DNA going into that avatar, my offspring. So the Father became the Son, and I became the Father. In that paradoxical sense, we're still equal with each other, as all souls are equal. And it was my Father coming down in that avatar who continued the message and made people believe in the law and the truth and the continuation of life. And anybody tries to say, well, that's deception, that's a lie, it's actually not. Because it's bringing to the reality of perpetual life. No matter even if you die, that you come back to life. It's just not as it was perceived by humanity. Not directly your body coming back up out of the grave. It's reincarnation. But it had to be done that way for people to understand this day. When the time was right, people would be mature enough and science would be advanced enough so that people will understand. And my Father, that soul within that avatar, said that we shall remain on the earth with you, to suffer and endure with you until the end of time, the end of the world itself. And the end of time, it doesn't mean that seconds and minutes and hours and months are going to disappear. No, it's in the context of an amnesty. You have until, say for example, you have until Friday to do what's right. And if you hand in your weapons, if you stop your crimes, if you give back what you've stolen, there'll be no more said about it. It'll be forgotten. You'll be forgiven. But if you do not do it in time, Friday is the end of time. No more time. After that, if you're caught being involved in criminality, you will be punished. And you will pay the consequences. That's what was talking about the end of time. Not time itself disappearing. No, that remains. Now, the book of Revelations is a parable. It's not a scientific chronicle of events that will happen. It's a very complex book. It was there to wake me up when I returned, so I could come back through my free will and my understanding of the truth and the world, to bring the truth to the world, to save the world at this time, at the end of the ages. And the information in the book of Revelation was transmitted to John, and he had to put that in context of his understanding of the world. And he did it very well. But even the book of Revelations is not perfect. And any of these Bible thumpers saying that that's blasphemy, and I must be the devil to say that. Well, I'll tell you this. I'll tell you when your Messiah is going to come. Your Messiah is going to come when the four angels stand on the four corners of this round planet. Because there are no corners on this planet. They will never stand on the four corners of this world, because it doesn't exist. And that kind of Messiah does not exist. I am the real, living, flesh and blood, encasing the eternal soul, as all your souls are eternal. And John also, he spoke for the trees as well. He said, no more will you hear the voice of the craftsman, the musician, the artist. And this was because trees have been murdered to make musical instruments, to make sculptures, to make wooden frames, for canvases, for pictures. And it was saying, no more murdering things for your pleasure. But you can make things. Henry Ford made a car completely out of soya beans. There's plenty of plant polymers from seeds, peanuts, beans, hemp, jute, bamboo. We are not actually harming anything. But you have that material. So continue making your art, your music, your crafts. Don't worship them, but use them as an expression of the creativity, an expression of the beauty and wonder that God bestowed on you. Art is very, very healing. And keep creating your fiction, these wonderful films of superheroes, masked superheroes, Guardians of the Universe and all that. Fantastic stories. And anybody who gets uptight saying, that's lies, you've got to understand, every work of fiction technically is a lie. But there's a purpose to it. It's to tell a story, to teach something in a fun and enjoyable and a creative way that stimulates your imagination, stimulates your creativity. Now, I explain where I come from. I'm not of this world. I said that before. But the Israelites, the Jews, didn't understand that because their hearts were hardened. If they had understood it, would they realised that I came from outside this world. I came from the heavens. But they didn't understand it. But I say it again. I came from space. I came on a spaceship. And that spaceship is the moon. And with the moon, we brought water to this planet. Now, there was some water on this planet already, but we brought more water to this planet. Enough water to raise all the life that's on the planet. And without the moon, there would be no life on this planet. It would not be inhabitable. But we brought water with the moon. And in millions, billions of years to come, when we have taken all the goodness from the earth and harvested all the souls from the earth, the moon will come back down towards the earth, the water will return to the moon, and we'll move on to another planet. Every soul intact, the billions of souls, all we need is one molecule of water to attach a soul for, and it can be reincarnated anywhere in the universe, any habitable planet. Now, if you're going around saying you're a Christian, wearing a little crucifix on your neck, what you're actually saying is, I'm an Antichrist. If you follow the teachings of Paul the Antichrist. So Christianity in that sense means nothing. Because is it a Christ in the Gospel of Luke, or is it the Christ in the Gospel of Matthew, or Christ in the Gospel of John? Okay? But I don't want to see hero worship. It's important. Don't focus on me. Focus on yourselves. And that's why I come with a mask. Because it's about you finding the God within yourself, not finding me. Not by meeting me personally. It's important that you find the God within yourself for yourself, using the truth and the law. And the reality is, because I come with a mask, that tomorrow you might be sitting beside me on a bus. You might be walking, passing me in a park, sitting on a plane beside me, dancing in a nightclub beside me. Who knows? Starting in a queue in a shop to buy some wine. And you won't know. Now there's 144,000 people roughly who have the seal of God on their foreheads and who are ready to start healing all around this world. And I will fully intend to go around this world teaching and healing as one of the 144,000, equal to everybody, but sharing my knowledge and my chi to help people raise up, become alive, truly alive. It's written in the Gospel of Matthew. God is the God of the living. It's the resurrection of the living, not the resurrection of the dead. Everybody who is born as a human has been reincarnated this day and age, for this day, Judgment Day. You are all here. If you've lost family, friends, that died, they are reincarnated. They are here again today with you in a different body, maybe in a different country, maybe closer than you think. All brought back together for this day, for the beginning of the kingdom of heaven, where the law of heaven and God is brought to the earth. So some people will see my other websites. There's a lot more humour, a lot more detail about what actually went on in my life and what happened, who I am. Now, I encourage you, don't make that website viral. Make this video viral. Share it to all your friends, all your contacts. Broadcast it on your TVs. Use qualified interpreters, language interpreters and sign language interpreters to get the true meaning as close as possible to what I'm saying. Transmit it all around the world. Do not delay. Anybody who delays, you shall not share in the kingdom of heaven. Anyone who actively tries to block this message, you shall be blocked from life. Be thrown into the bottomless pit or hellfire with sulphur, because you impair humanity and you endanger other people and prolong people's suffering, and you must pay for that if that is what's going to happen. And anybody who ends up in hell, if you do what's right now, if with all your heart you're sorry, you're contrite, and you dedicate to doing the right thing from here on, there is every possibility you may be forgiven. Now, some people's crimes may be so horrific and vile that they have to go into the bottomless pit for a certain amount of time. But there's no reason why anybody should end up in hell and be left on this planet at the end of time when the moon comes back down to take the water off this planet and move to a different planet. There's no reason why anybody gets left behind. If you do, it's your choice, because you refuse to do what's right. You refuse to be good and obey the law. And for anybody who says, if God could have done this all along, why didn't God do that? Why didn't he send people like Genghis Khan, Idi Amin, all these monsters throughout history? Why didn't he just take them out of the picture if he could do it? And there's two reasons. The first is culpability. You have to be fully aware and understand what you're doing to be given the ultimate punishment. And because these people were brought up in distress, in their minds they were doing it for the greater good. In their minds they were struggling to survive. And so they were not fully culpable. And you cannot be punished until you fully understand. But I have explained the law and explained it very clearly and simple so everybody can understand. So if you break the law from this day forward, you are culpable and you will pay. No more excuses. And the other thing is as well, as George Orwell explained in his book Animal Farm, some of these tyrants, yes, they were evil, terrible people, murdered millions. But if they had been taken out, there was another tyrant, maybe 10 times worse, ready to take their place. So it made no difference. And it made no sense. That's why. And God came, and I came also, to raise mankind out of the murder and the ignorance into the light of the truth, real science, not to be held by anybody's arrogance. Aristarchus knew that the world was round and revolved around the sun. For 2,000 years, people who called themselves scientists held back that information and murdered people who testified to that science. That's how corrupt the world can be. So no more. I ask you to be humble, be honest in everything, and we will make this world a paradise. Those who act fast will share in the kingdom of heaven. Those who delay and who doubt, you risk being left behind. You may live, but you'll not share in the absolute joy that everybody else enjoys. So give thanks to God every day. Thank Him for everything you have, whether it's wealth, whether it's happiness, whether it's love, whether it's the fact that you have hands, that you can see, that you can walk. Thank God for everything every day, and obey the law, as I've explained. And I'll see you around. Who knows? And even if I am murdered by a rogue element tonight, or if in an accident and I die, I could be born in another 9 months. That child could be me. You'll never know. That's why my identity is kept between me and God and the people who already know me, my friends and my family who I love. And I ask you all, if you know who I am, keep it to yourself. Between me and you. Don't even say it to me. But if you know my identity, don't tell anybody else. Don't risk ending up like Judas, going down in history as a person who betrayed me. No, just keep it between me and you. At the end of the day, I am no different to you. Universal soul. I just happen to come from a different part of the galaxy. But I am now every bit as much human as each and every one of you. The body that I have is not an exceptional body. It's not particularly strong or muscular or handsome. There's many people who have much better physiques than me. But because I know the truth, I'm able to bring the truth to the world and to endure the suffering, the pain and the discipline to bring this truth to you. So enjoy your lives. I'll meet each and every one of you eventually, as will my Heavenly Father. All thanks to Almighty God, Jah, the Holy Spirit, the Lord of the universe. Now I know it's written in the book as well, that in a single hour Babylon shall fall. Now I know this is probably closer to 2 hours that I've been talking. I tried to get it down to an hour. It's just so much information, it's impossible to get it down to an hour. But in the book of Revelations, we're not talking about strictly a modern hour of 60 minutes. We're talking about a historical hour, different cultures. The hour was different cultures. But basically means a short period of time. Even though it's probably closer to modern 2 hours, this is the hour. In 1 hour, Babylon shall fall. I speak the truth to destroy the kingdom of lies and evil and murder and theft. Just by telling the truth, backed up by science. May all of you who try your best in your hearts to do the will of God, may you have good fortune and be blessed. And I look forward to meeting you